What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome to your stimulus check update, stimulus package and infrastructure update and daily news report for Wednesday, September 22nd. Now, you probably have heard this, but I want to address what is currently going on. The House yesterday passed the government funding bill. However, they passed the government funding bill and the debt ceiling increase or suspension. Now, I want to break down what this means because a lot of people are saying this is really good. This is great news. This is going to be done, and they'll move on to the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill and the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill as well. However, it's not that easy. Here's what I can tell you right now. Here's what is in this continuing resolution and debt ceiling suspension. What we know is the vote passed on party lines 220 to 211. We also know this bill includes funding for the federal government through December 3rd, 2021. It also includes billions of dollars for emergency disaster relief, and it includes about $6 to $7 billion for Afghan refugees and aid there. But the big thing is, this bill also includes the suspension of the debt ceiling through December 2022. Now, why is all this stuff so important? And you're probably thinking, this is good. This is really good because we need government funding or else the government shuts down on October 1st. We need to either suspend or increase the debt ceiling. This has to be done according to Moody's estimates by October 20th, or else we are going to default on our debts. Millions of people will go without money. Federal employees will most likely be let go. Won't be asked to come back to work. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen if this were to go through. And you're probably thinking this is all good. But here's the issue. This isn't. This is actually where the games are going to begin. And this is what I mean. Even though this bill passed through the House, that was the easy part. Getting the House of Representatives to pass a bill is not that difficult. You just need the simple majority. They got that. Having President Biden sign a bill is pretty simple. If it passes in the House and the Senate, chances are the president's going to sign the bill. The problem is in the Senate. In the Senate, there's a rule in place where every bill has to get 60 votes. It must pass the filibuster. It has to get 60 votes. Well, the problem right now is currently Democrats have only 50 senators. It's a split 50-50. So, they will need 10 GOP votes or else this bill is going to die. Now, as of this morning, the current numbers are expected to be 52 yeses and 48 noes. Let me explain why. The reason why 2 Republicans will most likely vote yes is because their state needs funding for the disaster funding. Their state needs it. So because of this, that is the only reason why 2 GOP members would vote yes. Because their voters, their constituents, the residents of that state would most likely be up in arms if that senator voted no when millions of people need additional funding. So, the problem right now that we're facing is that this bill is right now, it's tied, Democrats tied the government funding bill to the debt ceiling increase or suspension. That was one of the things that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said do not do because the GOP will have to vote against it. That's exactly what Democrats did. The government has to be funded by October 1st or it shuts down. If the government shuts down, millions of people will stop getting paid. But yet, again, these are where the games are beginning. This is where the games are beginning. But this is happening here, okay? But what is happening right now is that Democrats are trying to force Republicans' hand, force them to vote against the bill. Democrats want Republicans to either accept the bill as is or vote against it. 2 options. Don't modify it, vote as is, or reject it. And the reason for this, if we were to see a shutdown, a government shutdown, or the U.S. defaults on its debts, which we've never done, but if this happens, Democrats would actually have some leverage. They'd have something to campaign on during their midterm elections of 2022. So, Mitch McConnell said that the GOP will not pass a debt ceiling increase no matter what, and Democrats can go ahead and increase the debt limit or suspend the debt ceiling until, whatever they want to. They can do this through a budget reconciliation. Mitch McConnell has said this, but Democrats don't want to do that. Democrats don't want to do this because of actually two main reasons. And these two main reasons you really need to understand. First, if we see more inflation and Democrats were to do this through a budget reconciliation, then the American people would blame Democrats because of increased inflation. Okay, that's one. And if Democrats use the budget reconciliation and they increase the debt ceiling or they suspend it, then they can't use that $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation again, which means that the budget reconciliation they couldn't use again, which would mean the $3.5 trillion bill wouldn't pass, because that doesn't have Republican support either. Only the $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill, which has no social infrastructure, which has no stimulus for the American people. It's all pure infrastructure. So Democrats are saying that if we do not pass the $3.5 trillion stimulus package or infrastructure bill, the American voters would be irate if they didn't receive things like 4 more years of the child tax credit payments. Those are the $250 to $300 per month payments. Also, affordable child care, elder care, free community college, universal paid leave, and so much more. They would be irate. And let me just ask you this. If Democrats don't pass the $3.5 trillion stimulus package like they've been saying they can, that they have all the power to do so, if they don't get this passed at $3.5 trillion, maybe it's just $1.5 or $2.5 trillion, would you be upset and would you vote against Democrats in the upcoming midterm elections? Let me know down in the comment section below. Now, right now, everything is coming down to the final couple of weeks. The final couple of weeks. We now have, in just 5 days, we're supposed to vote on a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. But yet, progressives say they will not vote on this until the $3.5 trillion bill is passed first. In 9 days, the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill is supposed to be passed as well. These were deadlines set by Nancy Pelosi. We have about 3 weeks before the government runs out of money and needs the debt ceiling increased. And in just 9 days, the government will shut down. We will shut down. We will see a shutdown if we do not see a continuing resolution, a CR. Now, lawmakers can't agree on how to move forward. They have all these different plans. They have all these different things they have to get done. They're being told immigration reform can't be included into the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill, yet they are planning to just push it forward. And hopefully they can get it through. So right now it's just games on games on games. Last night, Progressive Caucus Chairwoman Pramila Jayapal, she even had this to say, and I quote, "If we can get the reconciliation bill that has the majority of the president's agenda in it, the majority of what we ran on, then we will vote on both bills. That has been our position 3 months ago. It remains our position today." That was her exact statement. But let me just explain this. Right now, the Progressive Caucus, there's at least 50 members that are firm on this stance that they either vote on both bills, get both bills passed, or if the plan is for moderates to only do the $1.2 trillion bill, progressives will stand in the way. They say that we can only lose 3 Democratic votes in the House, but yet progressives have about 90 members, and at least 50 of them are standing firm on this statement. So, right now, this bill wouldn't pass. And Nancy Pelosi said before, she will not bring a vote to the floor of the House until she knows she has the votes, until she knows she has the numbers. Right now, she does not have the numbers. So, what I can tell you is we are going to be stuck in this kind of state of limbo for a little bit longer. This means, and as of right now, just to give you an idea, the talks of additional stimulus checks, they're actually kind of subsiding. we're not seeing those as much because people are more worried about what's going to happen, not if we don't see a stimulus check, but what's going to happen if we don't get the government funded for an additional year or an extension of their funding. What happens then? What happens if the government or the U.S. Actually defaults on their debts? What happens then? That's what people are worried about. Stimulus checks are going to be imperative to millions of people, but at the same time, more people will be impacted if the government shuts down or the U.S. defaults on their debts. So right now, it's trying to figure out which one of these issues should be tackled first. And according to experts, it is not the infrastructure bill for $1.2 trillion. It's not the $3.5 trillion stimulus package, even though that would be very beneficial to the American people. The biggest issue, and the one that's most pressing, is to make sure the government is funded, because if that doesn't happen in 9 days, then people could be losing their jobs. Programs could be pretty much halted for a little while. And then the next thing is to extend or pretty much increase the debt ceiling or suspend the debt limit. Those are the priorities at this point. But let's get into the COVID news for today. This is actually shocking, but California currently has the lowest virus transmission rate in the country. If you go off the cases per 100,000, California actually, their rate is 94 cases per 100,000 people. That's actually pretty low. In Texas, it's 386 per 100,000, and in Florida, it's 296 per 100,000. Experts are currently saying that this is due to California having a relatively high vaccination rate. Currently, there's roughly about 70% of all eligible Californians are fully vaccinated and another 8% that have at least got one shot. Yesterday, a new state mandate went into effect. This is actually pretty interesting, that any indoor event with 1,000 or more attendees would now require them to show proof they have the vaccine or they have a negative COVID test. Previously, people could simply attest to the fact that yes, I do have the vaccine or I had a negative COVID test. So now you actually have to show proof. But experts are saying that California is showing the rest of the country how to beat this virus. And this is just like New York did last year, where they were kind of the first they really saw a lot of people, a lot of deaths due to COVID, but they started to figure things out very quickly, and the rest of the United States kind of followed along. Well, experts say we might have to follow along right behind California, as they are currently doing stuff right. So we will see what happens there. What I can tell you though is the talks on stimulus, the talks on the debt ceiling, the talks on government funding, and COVID are still going to continue. And as they do, I promise I will be here every step of the way. Again, thanks for watching. If you have any questions whatsoever, please ask your questions down in the comment section below. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.